holidays are here again. La 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 la. Hello, darling. Yep, that's right. It's little old me, the people's choice, Elvira, candidate of the dark. Yes, I have decided to throw my ring into the hat. On account of that's what us politicians do. So, anyway, you see this ring? You see this hat? Here goes. Bullseye. And that makes it official. Now I am really in the running. I only wish I knew what I was running for. Somebody here on the crew suggested that I run for baseball commissioner on account of my fondness for sports. The sports I'm really fond of are the ones who spring for an expensive dinner and that good champagne. Whenever I hear Mum's Extra Dry, I say, hey, what about Elvira? She could use a drink her own darn self. But let's get back to the issues. The show, as you know, is Movie Macabre, and the movie we're threading up for you this week, if you haven't already figured it out, has a political theme to it. It's called The Werewolf of Washington. And it's all about this werewolf that just goes around terrorizing Washington, as in D.C. UC? Well, you will just as soon as we get these messages from the advertisers out of the way. It's the Werewolf of Washington, coming right up here on Movie Macabre.
That it could happen in America. That it could happen now. That it could ever happen.
So long, Captain Tidy, and may you always sail on clear blue waters. Gee, pulling somebody's chain is one thing, but flushing one down their toilet, that is another story. It's the quickest way I know to screw up the plumbing. And what an ingrate that guy Jack is. Or if you prefer the Hungarian, what an ingrate that guy Chak is. The old gypsy gal who should have been plenty teed off was willing to forgive and forget. Especially forget, like her lines. Willing to forgive and forget. She even gave Chak that swell pendant as a small memento of his visit to the old country. Okay, maybe the clasp on that chain was broken, and the only way to get that sucker around his neck was by pulling it down over those floppy ears of his. But how often do you have to take something like that off? And you know what they say about it being the thought that counts? Was a broken clasp any reason to flush that thing down the toilet? Was it? Boy, was it? I tell you, it just makes my day when some guy comes along and kisses my hand. It's so continental. Why, where'd this come from? What's happening to me? First I found this living throw rug on the roof of my macabre mobile, and now my hand is turning weird. Oh, wow! Bathroom humor. Cheap bathroom humor. And for once, it ain't my doing. First, they took us into the executive John to watch the president taking matters into his own hands, like fixing the broken door to the stall. And that meatball of an astronaut. I mean, how much tang did he have to drink on that last moon mission? Take it to the moon, but don't bring it back with you. And Jack, that poor devil Jack, he thought that if he held a pair of shoes up to his head, he could pass himself off as a Democrat. Then he wanted that slightly deaf naval psychiatrist to accompany him to the men's room of the restaurant. It isn't manly, Jack. It just isn't manly. Did I say slightly deaf?
What? What? What's politics got to do with this? What does the Pentagon have to do with it? The Pentagram! Gentlemen, the five-pointed star! What?
Way to go there, Mr. President. Way to duck them questions. That's something us politicians learn how to do. Duck. Hey, how's this for a campaign promise? My friends and fellow Americans, if elected, I promise to never run another turkey like this werewolf of Washington. And that's a promise, my friends. That is a promise. Oh, if you noticed, I said that with my fingers crossed behind my back like this, see? That's something else us politicians learn how to do. And speaking of things you learn to do, who taught Jack how to pick up women? Goes around picking up women in telephone booths. Actually, picks up the whole darn telephone booth. Now that is manly, Jack. That's manly. It's more of the movie right after this. Yeah, he's really real strange. And Jack You gotta quit licking that midget's face. I mean, maybe it's manly, but it ain't very sanitary. And you know what your mother said about that? It'll grow hair on your hands. Meanwhile, back in the war room, the president of these here United States is worried about the lunatic right. What he ought to be worried about is the lunatic who's sitting on his left, Jack. The president's attitude is, ignore him and he'll go away. Come to think of it, he's right. Jack did go away. Well, maybe I've underestimated this man of the people. Maybe. Okay, it's more thrills, spills, and chills, and trips down bowling lane when the werewolf of Washington comes up, howling back after these... What a finish! What a finish! What a stupid finish! I, for one, I have had it with politics. I am like removing my ring from the hat. That's right. You won't have Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, to kick around no more. Well, okay. Maybe you'll be doing a little kicking next week when you tune in and discover what we're running for a movie.
All right. I'm convinced.
Hope to see you then, and until then, keep on dreaming those unpleasant dreams. Ha ha ha!